Thank you guys for choosing to come here for our session on the Woodfordia Foundation and a Forest of Goodwill. I really appreciate everyone being here, but what I wanted to just remind everyone, and Monique, this will be quite poignant to you, is 2 years ago on this weekend we had something called The Gathering, where we all came together. We hadn't returned the planting to Woodfordia post-COVID at that stage, and we were lamenting about when to start the fundraising program for buying the land back. For those of you that aren't aware, back in 1994, the Queensland Folk Federation, as we were then called, purchased 240 acres here to move the Mullaney Folk Festival down here to the Woodfordia, to this land, and then renamed the festival to the Woodford Folk Festival. And over the years, we started transforming this land into a festival site from a dairy farm, and also a site of habitat for southeast Queensland species, plants and animals. And we gradually added other properties to the parcel of land. And in 2010, we actually solved one of our biggest issues on the site, and that was what to do with all of the sewerage that we would generate at the Woodford Folk Festival. So collectively at Woodford, we generate 1 million litres of sewerage a day, and that's quite a baffling amount and something that we needed to do something about. We had been carting it off-site to the Woodford treatment plant and also the Burpengary treatment plant, because the Woodford Folk Festival sewerage mix was a rather soupy sewerage mix, because it didn't have your washing machines and dishwashers, so it was a fairly Guinness-fueled mix, let's say. So we talked with a Queensland scientist and engineer, Ben Keel, and he'd developed a system of treating sewerage, both fresh sewerage and off sewerage, which is much harder to treat apparently. So it's a batching sewerage treatment plant. And in 2010, we put all of the money that we had in the bank, and then some, $3.8 million, to build a wastewater treatment plant that is the first of its kind in Australia, in fact in the world. And Ben has patented parts of that treatment chain. What that meant is that we had zero left in the bank. And that would be okay if everything was going to go all right. But by about December, the weather pattern that turned into the Queensland flood years, which was a devastating impact on communities in Queensland, and people also lost their lives at, that was going on while we were holding the Woodford Folk Festival. Previously, when we'd had a wet weather event, our attendance might have gone backwards by about 6%. Well, in that year, our attendance went back by 18%, and we came out of that festival with bills that we had to pay, about $1.5 million worth of bills. And we'd spent all of the money on building this wastewater treatment plant. So prior to that, we'd gone to council, and we said to council we were in a risky position, that if the festival didn't go well this year, we might need some help. And we'd asked for an interest-free loan at that stage. And the council, we went back to them in January and said it hasn't gone well, and the council came back and said, well, we could enter a partnership where we bought the land-only asset and held that asset within council's organisation, and had a 25-year buyback clause in that lease, so that at any time in the next 25 years we could go in and buy the land back, which was always our intent. So we thought 25 years. That's no worries. We'll put aside 100,000 or 200,000 a year, and at the end of 25 years, we'll just go in, here's the cheque, and all good. Well, we didn't know that COVID was coming, or the cost of living crisis, or the music industry crisis. And so about 2 years ago, we found ourselves halfway through that 25-year buyback lease, and we thought, my God, we've only got 12 years left to raise the funds to be able to buy the land back and secure it into a trust, a foundation. So we talked about what we would do and developed the idea and put it to our organising group about a forest of goodwill, a fundraising campaign which had an opportunity for people to make a significant donation and become a Forest of Goodwill Fellow and help plant forests on the site, to founding patrons who would contribute $1,000 and be founding patrons of the Woodfordia Foundation, and then to also everyone else that can contribute an amount that they could at the time. So I'd just like to acknowledge here today in the audience we have some Forest of Goodwill Fellows. Stephen Pronk, can you please put your hand up? Stephen and Joanne were the first Forest of Good Fellows that contributed. We also have Percy and Nicola Ellis down here. Please put your hands up. Thank you so much. Can you help us just thank these guys once again? And I've just spotted them, Max and Annie at the back corner of the tent. Thank you, guys. And I believe their forests were planted this morning. So that's an incredible contribution. And it's given our community just, I feel, the confidence that they needed to get behind this campaign. And we had a job to do that we needed to get done, and that was, when we talk about buying the land back, we're talking about putting it into a trust that it would stay in for perpetuity, that even if the organisation had cash flow problems in the future, the land would never be sold to meet those problems. So the idea was to set up a Woodfordia Foundation, and that foundation would house the land and ultimately a perpetual fund in future years, and that order of Woodfordia recipients, those people that have been involved to the organisation for many years, would sit on as members of that foundation. And I'm pleased to say that just over a week ago, the Woodfordia Foundation has been registered with ATSIC, and we have now had our first board meeting, and the board has elected Ian Lowe as the chair of the Woodfordia Foundation. So it's an incredible milestone. We're yet to get the charitable status and everything. There's more steps that we need to do, but the important thing is that that's established. Once we get the charitable component of that established, then the funds that have been raised so far will be put into that. Now today we wanted to give you a bit of an overview of that, also introduce, for those of you, and I don't think there'd be many who don't know who Ian Lowe is, ask Ian Lowe to come out to speak. And then Anna Williams, who's our fundraising manager, she'll also talk about where we're up to and where we hope to be by the end of the festival this year. Ian Lowe, I don't think Ian Lowe was given an Order of Woodfordia a number of years ago for his incredible contribution to Woodfordia, both as a passionate environmentalist, but a storyteller of incredible note, but somebody that has always reminded us and always helped guide the organisation in different thinking around the environmental achievements. He was the president of the Australian Conservation Foundation for 10 years, and I don't think we could be blessed with a better inaugural chair of the Woodfordia Foundation. Can you please welcome to the stage Ian Lowe to say a few words? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna. I don't have much to add. I mean, the starting point is, of course, as we were reminded last night, this is Jinnabara land. Sovereignty was never ceded. This always was and always will be Aboriginal land. But we have to live with the primitive British legal system based on the legal fiction of terra nullius. And what that means is, as you've just been reminded, this land is at the moment technically owned by Moreton Bay Council. And that means our existence is relatively precarious because councils come and councils go. So I think it's a very important objective to take ownership of this land. I remind you that the 500-year plan is committed to, and I quote, an organisation, a land and a legacy unencumbered by financial, social and environmental debt. And of course, The work about sewage management, the work about getting rid of single-use plastics and so on is about not leaving an environmental debt. The work about working with the community and the Jinnabara people is about not leaving a social debt. But taking ownership of the land is about not leaving a financial debt, ensuring that this is a permanent legacy for future generations to enjoy folk music. And the legal advice was that in terms of good governance, it's important to set up a foundation which is at arm's length from the running of the festival, so that when people are asked to contribute to the fund, the Forest of Goodwill, for taking ownership back of this land, they can be assured that that money is in a separate organisation, that money is quarantined, it can't be bled off if the folk festival is having a bad year or Amanda wants her salary increased, that it's there in a dedicated fund with a separate legal entity, separate legal existence, and when hopefully in the not far distant future the money has been used to take this land into permanent ownership by Woodfordia Foundation, there will then be a perpetual fund to use to keep improving the land, keep ensuring that we don't leave social and environmental debts to the next generation. This decision was taken well above my pay grade, but I could understand why they would want to populate this new organisation with members of the Order of Woodfordia. I think we're seen as being so old that we're not dangerous, and we can be trusted with the funds of the organisation. And they've appointed Anna Evington and Jamie McHugh and I as directors. And as Amanda said, we had a meeting last week, and Anna and Jamie both took 2 steps backwards, so it looked like I'd taken 2 steps forward, and I was installed as chair. But it's a privilege to be part of this organisation and this great work of ensuring that Woodfordia is a permanent part of the Australian and Queensland landscape, that the land is owned by this organisation, the assets here are owned by the organisation, the improvements we've done are part of the permanent legacy. How do we get there? Over to Anna Williams, who will tell you how you can dig deep and ensure that we actually get ahead, achieve our target, and take ownership of this land. Please welcome Anna to the stage.
No pressure. Thank you, everybody. A bit of a hard act to follow, Amanda and Ian. Their commitment and what they have brought to this organisation over many, many years, I think, should be acknowledged. Can we just give them another little clap? So it's very exciting. I was just checking our fundraising total this morning, and our current fundraising is now sitting at $2.38 million. We've got 1,250 donors, and we've still got, thanks to our generous match donors, $280,000 in our pool of match funding, which means we can double that to 560 if everybody can just duck over to the Forest of Goodwill tent this afternoon and share that responsibility. I'd be very grateful. The website has been refreshed. If you want to have a little look at that, we've given it a bit of a look over. We've listened to some of our donors who were looking for more information, and so you can now see the guilds on there. So if you want to donate to your guild, it's much easier to get onto that website and find your guild. We've included a story on there, which is new, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And we're sort of trying to clearly articulate our longer-term vision on that website. So it's accessible to people who might not be familiar with Woodfordia, and that's what we're looking to do next, is to share our story in an audience that might not be familiar. This campaign is starting to evolve, and what began as an internal community movement to secure the land is now opening other conversations with philanthropic organisations, strategic partners, advisors, and people who might be able to help us fund the next era of Woodfordia. To support those new relationships, as I just mentioned, we've created a short film, and that helps communicate to those who are unfamiliar the scale, the heart, and the future potential of Woodfordia. Before we share the film, I just would really like to acknowledge the many people who helped bring it to life. What you're about to see was created out of the passion and genuine love for Woodfordia and the belief in what this organisation means to every individual. I really would like to extend my sincere thanks to all of the extraordinary creatives, the storytellers, and the musicians who've helped us put this together. This story begins many years ago, and it has got many years to continue. And we're honoured to share it with you now. If we could play the video.
Woodford is so much more than just a festival location, a place where an event takes its course. It's a cultural site. It's somewhere that people participate rather than just spectate, because the connection that people make with this site, it's turned it into a piece of cultural infrastructure with real long-term public value, because people return. And every time they return, they bring with them
We might just stop that for a second, because that's not how Costa
they
sounds.
bring with
Just
them
bear with me for 1 second. While we're waiting for that, I might just share that this video has been played at a number of meetings that have been convened in the recent weeks, both with government departments and private industry and philanthropic organisations, and it's been received really warmly. We've brought people to tears, which I think is testament to the love that they can feel coming through the words and the vision that is in the video. And some of those conversations that we've been having have been looking at taking the fundraising campaign to the next step. So we've been meeting with some philanthropic organisations, as I mentioned, and we're actually going to be hosting a wealth advisors and estate planning lunch here at Woodfordia at the end of May. And we've invited some of the top philanthropic organisations in Brisbane, and I'd love to invite anybody within our own organisation. If you've got a great relationship with an estate planner or a wealth planner, please come and find me, and I would love if you could facilitate an introduction, because it's about bringing Woodfordia to the top of people's minds. They might not be aware of how much more than a folk festival we're actually about, and it's that we have been having some really incredible conversations. We're continuing to lobby with government, and we've met recently with Arts Queensland, and we're meeting with the Department of Environment in the coming weeks, looking at making inroads into more funding opportunities. We're hoping that with the support of Council, that moving forward into the next phase of the campaign and leveraging these new relationships, that this fundraising campaign will not go on and on and on and on. And I'm hoping potentially by the end of next year's festival, we'll be a lot more closer to getting this job done and moving forward. Once the land has been secured, the foundation, as Ian mentioned, will look after a perpetual fund. And those funds will be put towards specific programs like the Champions of Woodfordia, environmental education, keeping the site up to date, investing in new infrastructure, and community wellbeing programs. So there's lots to do. And I'm hoping that with your support, we'll be able to get there. Are we any closer to seeing Costa? No. Well, in lieu of that, 5 minutes, okay. I might bring Ian back up on the stage and welcome any questions from the audience. Oh no, we're ready to go. Is that right? Was that a thumbs up?
Woodford is so much more than just a festival location, a place where an event takes its course. It's a cultural site. It's somewhere that people participate rather than just spectate, because the connection that people make with this site, it's turned it into a piece of cultural infrastructure with real long-term public value, because people return. And every time they return, they bring with them not just new people, but they bring with them that desire to see the visions and the plans carry out, because they're being healed, they're being renewed. There's a renewal of the ecology. The site began as a denuded, clapped out landscape, and that investment of volunteer hours and time is transforming it. And then people are transformed in that transformation, and they take that back to their communities.
This is a really beautiful thing that's had decades of work and care and effort and attention and pure love poured into it. Spaces like this, gatherings like this, is how you support community. This is community care.
It's not just somewhere where you come to be entertained. It's actually a place where you come to contribute to and help to build what's here. And the privilege of being able to be part of the festival is extraordinary. And I think that's what keeps us coming back. And I think being part of something much, much larger than yourself is really gratifying.
I think there's a lot of people out there thinking, what can I do to be part of making this world a little bit better? What change can I impact? Showing up and being in these spaces is how you do that, is a small part that you can give to others and that you can receive back.
You get a full week of community, of creativity, of art, of talks, of music, of dance, of participation. There's nothing like Woodford elsewhere in the world.
And I believe in this organisation so strongly. It's family, it's connection, community, environmental safety, financial safety, personal safety, acceptance, equality, everything that everyone in the world is craving stem from here.
Woodford is a regenerative community, full of the kind of things that we want to see in the world. There's so much connection and positive, inspiring ideas for co-creating the sort of world I want to live in.
The beauty of this festival too, for a lot of people that don't understand, it's volunteer run. You're investing your time and energy into that, so you want to give and you want to be a part of it. And then you can feel that energy in Woodford, that everybody's moving together and moving with that one goal and one movement towards something great. And this is what we can do to give back, which as it turns out is playing cricket. That's our limited skill set, but that's what we love to give and bring.
They've put in permanent amenities blocks right? There's 50 kilometres of sewer, there's drinking water throughout the site. They've put a lot of investment into infrastructure which is behind the scenes that you don't really see as a patron, you don't understand. There's no place like this anywhere around the world that I've been, but there's plenty of places that want to be like this, that consider the Woodford Folk Festival to be a shining light as far as these types of events are concerned, with the commitment to environmental sustainability over a 500-year plan. People are really looking seriously at this and saying this is the best way to have a sustainable event.
I think what makes people feel at home here is an openness. It's a welcome to everybody, all walks of life, everyone is welcome here. And there's a generosity actually to the land here.
Scientifically it has been studied in multiple levels that every generation need to feel the connection with root and connection of belonging. And I would strongly suggest anyone, if they want to learn about belonging, they have to come here and spend time.
The importance of this festival for local people, especially Jinnabara people and neighbouring clans, it brings us together, and this place has been able to allow us to create story. It's been allow us to create memory.
I think when you sit back and you listen and learn to Indigenous cultures from all over the world, that you become part of the story. To be able to be a part of the yarn, I just feel like that. Yeah, that's a real big opportunity, and I've really loved that here at Woodford. That's extended my own personality.
I love and thrive back home on country when I'm, hunting, fishing, ceremony, dance, being out in the bush. But I also know that my place is here, walking, across these bridges, and transversing between the Western world that we're living in today gives me the strength. I really feel like it's my way of plugging into a PowerPoint and really recharging myself so I can go off and continue walking that walk that I'm walking.
It would mean the world to me to know that it's in good hands. The way that people work together, black and white on this country, is really a testament to the organisers, the Jinnabara people, and it's almost like a yardstick of how you can actually run our country.
So it's a mixture of entertainment and education. Well, I think the world would be a much better place if the world behaved like the people here in Woodford behave, and they respect one another. There are genuine differences of opinion, but they listen with respect to views that they don't necessarily agree with. They're here to learn, and if the world behaved like that, it'd be an infinitely better place.
It tries to be as democratic and as communal and as supportive and as loving and as unjudgmental.
There's Woodford babies, there's Woodford families, and people get married on the hilltop. It's such a part of people's lives.
We want to keep it alive. We don't want it to die like other festivals that are closing down. This is a beautiful thing, and you should come and experience it.
By the people, for the people, that has resonance because there's heart in it. People are dedicating their hard-earned energy, which is quite a valuable resource these days.
The reciprocal nature of this space needs to be maintained because it is so giving to so many people.
What's the one word to describe Woodford? And I said belonging. All are welcome. We're all equal in this place.
Transcendence. I feel like there's something about Woodford, like if you experience it, from when you arrive to when you leave, you change. You're a different person. I 100% believe that.
It's about art and human connection, and Woodford is such an important part of that. It's this living thing, it's this organism. For me, the word that comes to mind when I think of Woodford is utopia. It's a magical place.
Which is inclusive and diverse and silly and serious and playful and full of learning and
wonder, responsibility for our environment and connection with community.
As a UNESCO expert, I like to say that Woodfordia is a unique place in the world in exploring our sense of place and identity, And there's so much to learn from it, especially in the contemporary world with all the challenges that we face. It's very important for the younger generation to learn from the older generation, and Woodfordia is a living landscape that helps us in this process.
Now when it comes to decorating the cake, look at the choices here. Leaves, cones, flowers, dried flowers, billy buttons.
We want future generations to inherit a better planet than we've inherited as adults, and them understanding the steps we've taken and understanding what they can do to take it a step further is so important.
The amount of love that's been put into this place and the amount of, trees and everything that's been planted, for that to be able to continue into the future and for this to be safe, for this land to be safe for our children and our children's children and beyond, is a gift that really is greater than anything else. To be able to gift arts and culture, environmentalism and this land is just, super important.
We're losing opportunities to connect with each other. Events like this create the opportunity for people to come together, remember that they are more than just themselves. They are all of us, and we all value spending time together and celebrating together and creating ritual together and all of these things that humans have done for all of eternity.
Good. Very nice, Samira. And behind your back. And behind back. Yes, probably.
This is a unique place in Australia and in the world. It really is the shining beacon of multiculturalism, respect, tolerance, sharing of our common humanity. It really brings black and white people together in Australia, and it brings together all of the glorious cultures that now comprise our country. It's a very important place, and it's extremely important that we lay the foundations for it to be preserved and for it to prosper in the future.
That was so beautiful being part of bringing that together. I just also acknowledge Anna's work in that, and also Justin Brown, who his videography work of the festival over 20 plus years has enabled us to be able to bring some footage of people on that are no longer with us. But it was the lending of their names, so many of the artists, to this. And it talks about just how important it is for artists, and it's a musician's place as well. It's a place where musicians do a lot of their collaboration work and their development of ideas for the future. I mean, it's a place where there's a safety and experimentation, whether that's us learning how to plant trees. We certainly killed a few trees 30 years ago when we were learning how to do this right, and now one of the most important things we've learned is that mulching the trees is just so important when we're planting those trees. And over this weekend, with 2,800 trees growing in the ground, we're making sure each and every one of those plants has a good, generous amount of mulch. So for those people that would like to make a contribution towards the mulch over the weekend, there's tap and go at the general store and at our bars and at the Forest of Goodwill, and it's a really important part of this weekend. But I'd like to, in closing, just acknowledge everyone's support in where we've got to so far with this. As Anna said, I think we've raised 2.38 million so far. I'd like to acknowledge the City of Moreton Bay, the council, who are in partnership with us. We wouldn't be able to be doing this right now and fundraising this money if the council didn't have the foresight back in 2011 to put that 25-year buyback clause into our 50-year agreement. And I'd like to acknowledge Councillor Tony Latter. Please, Tony, put your hand up. Local councillor for the area here, representing the Moreton Bay Council. And this will indeed be a partnership that continues. Earlier this year we had Locals Day here at Woodfordia, and we invited locals from all the region here, and particularly community group members. Basically, we are just a large community group here, and we wanted to share our backyard with other community groups, whether they be sporting groups, whether they're emergency services groups, whether they're mental health groups, and it was lovely to have 1,300 locals and their families out here in March to just enjoy Woodfordia when there isn't a ticketed event on. So in closing, I'd really like to say once again thank you to our Forest of Goodwill Fellows. Thank you to those people that are part of this journey and have become a founding patron of the Woodfordia Foundation. Being a founding patron of something like this it's a milestone in the organisation's history. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to lend your name or lend your family's name to this Woodfordia Foundation. And I know that that's the reason why it's resonated with my family. I'm proud to say that my daughter's a founding member, and my niece and nephews are founding patrons of the Woodfordia Foundation, because nothing makes us all involved feel better than to think about this organisation being run by the next generation and the next generation here, and the interest they show and the enthusiasm and passion that the next generation has for Woodfordia. For those of you that were at the festival last year, that was evidenced in the Champions of Woodfordia, that the version of the game that was brought back here, that was an outstanding success. They had 700 youth aged between 13 and 17 involved in the game, which is like a role play real-time event happening throughout the festival. Most of us that are going to the venues and to the music and talks program wouldn't be aware of this whole other experience that's going on here. We might think that they're just interesting costume people or interesting play going on, but it's a whole alternate world that's happening that is just, it's just brilliant. One of the things I loved at the last Woodford Folk Festival is standing just outside the Cooper's Bar Folk Club, and normally you'd hear people rushing past saying, "Oh, quick, get to the grand, such and such is playing." And I heard these young kids going past and they were like, "Quick, get to the Hoarders Hall." And it was just like a completely different venue that, that none of the rest of us are really engaged with. So we know that the future generation, this is resonating with them. They feel safe here, they feel a sense of ownership here, and they're developing a sense of identity here. And there's nothing more important than being part of creating that for the next generation. And to be able to, as Ian said, honour our 500-year plan and leave this next generation a legacy that is unencumbered by social, financial and environmental debt. I know that is something that resonates deeply with the many of us that are involved in this work at the moment. So thank you for listening. Please, if you have got any questions, Anna, Ian and myself will be down the front here. Thank you for those that have given. For those that might be thinking about it, we would love your support and we'd love you to come on board. As Anna would have mentioned, we still have an amount of money that is in match funding, so every dollar that you give is matched at the moment, and of course everything is tax deductible. Thank you for coming to this talk, and thank you for your participation at the planting this year. Have a good one.